Welcome you to AMA here on Tuesday, November 22nd. So, we're going to be talking about the Momentum project here today from the Alpha Shares team. And excited to talk with them and just kind of hear about what they're doing, what they're building. Good teams. It's always interesting to hear what they're doing during the bear market because I know they're not just sitting on their hands hoping the price, hoping the market turns around or anything like that. But good teams keep building. So excited to hear how that's going. What I need from you guys, if you're watching this live or a replay, please hit the like button. And you know what I haven't done for a while? Question of the day. Let me know where you're watching from. I haven't done that for a while, but I am curious. I just, it amazes me. I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, but just get to meet people and talk with people from all over the place. So go ahead, like the video, comment where you're watching from. And if you have questions that you'd like to ask about the Momentum project, feel free to bring those up and we will ask those. So John and Tyler, great to have you here today. Could you start out with just a little bit of introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. I see that I unmuted first, so I will take the headway on that. But first, thank you for the intro, James. I really appreciate you having us on board here today. I know it's not the first time that we've been talking with you, so we're happy to be back on board, and we're happy to just be closely related with you too, and be able to bring you these awesome ventures that we either partake in or we create. But myself, obviously, I think it might show on the screen, my name is Tyler. I am sub.eth. That's my moniker in the Web3 space. I am a co-founder of both Alpha Shares and the Momentum Project with John here, who his moniker is Bad Shogun. As I've probably said previously, and maybe a previous AMA, I come traditionally from the real estate space. Since February, when we launched Alpha, I've really been doing a lot more of this than that. It's not a bad thing, but definitely I can't really say that I'm a full-time real estate person anymore. I much more can say that I'm a full-time Web3 investor, creator. I mean, it's awesome. It's really fun, kind of the titles that you can give yourself in this space. But very, very happy to really kind of be doing what my hobby is, which is really technology, innovation in technology. Been a hobbyist in technology and crypto crypto specifically since 2016, technology since I was a little kid, building computers and whatnot. So love this stuff. Very happy to finally be in it. I think that the real estate side of me, what stuck out most was the sales and the fact that I don't shut up often. And so with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to John so he can let you guys know more about him.
Hey, James, and thank you again for having us today. My name is John. I've been a software engineer now since around 1999. Was involved in early internet, doing websites way back then, and moved all the way through working for myself, working for Fortune 500 companies, enterprise e-commerce. Most recently, I was a staff engineer at Carvana. I was able to leave that company in September after the launch of Alpha Shares for 6 months. Between February and the launch of Alpha Shares, I was working full-time on both 80 to 100 hours a week, and just really Alpha Shares was a labor of love and continues to be. And I was just very, very happy, excited, and scared to make that jump. But here we are, and continue on.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's great to talk to you guys again. And Alpha Shares has always been, I've always just appreciated what you guys have done with that. And so excited to hear about this new project also. So maybe let's go ahead and start with that. Again, assuming people here don't know, I know a lot of people in the audience do know about Momentum because they're talking about how excited they are. But assuming that people watching don't know what Momentum is, you want to give a little bit of a what is Momentum? What's the goal here?
Sure, I could give a bit of an overview on that. So Momentum is a very unique DeFi protocol that is really out there to solve a couple problems from a few different types or archetypes of protocols. The first being reflection tokens. Momentum is a reflection token. And what's interesting about it is that it is able to distribute dividends without harming the price on the chart. Typically in the past, reflection tokens, in order to distribute a dividend, it'll take the taxes that it had saved up over the course of several transactions and then sell that into the LP. and that, of course, would result in a reduction in price. So that's the first thing that this token really solves. The second is that we're taking liquidity very seriously here. Many projects, as we see all across the board, suffer from low liquidity, and that is a hard lesson that we've also learned on Alpha Shares itself. So liquidity is favored greatly on this, and because of that, we're able to provide a lot of runway here. Now, the last, and I think the most unique and important aspect of this protocol is that it is also an investment mechanism. Through bonding, we are building a treasury, and that treasury is going to be used to invest in both proof of stake and proof of work, all sorts of cryptocurrency securing technology there. And on the proof of work side, we have a very unique opportunity that is 3 cents a kilowatt hour down in Paraguay, South America. We have that secured, and I am actually going to be moving to Asunción, the capital of Paraguay, in January. The main purpose of which is to oversee all of the proof of work mining operations. So that's something that we're very excited about, and I think that it really does help us stand out amongst the crowd and give us something that is truly long-lasting and providing longevity. And the way that this is going to work is that the mining and proof of stake proceeds are going to be dropped into the dividend distributor according to the amount of mass tokens you hold. That will also give you the treasury dividends there. So what, in the long run, you're going to be getting dividends on both the trading volume as well as the treasury investments.
Okay. No, that's, do you guys know what you're going to be mining down there in Peru?
Paraguay. So
yes, sorry.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a mix of Bitcoin and Cadena, and it's going to be somewhat dependent on the availability of hardware. Obviously, Cadena has some very profitable miners out there right now, but it's also really hard to get them. And so we'll have a spread going for sure.
Okay. Awesome. Very excited to see that. Maybe could you use this as something you talked about? I thought we could use this as kind of an educational moment, but do you want to talk about the issues that you've had with low liquidity in the past and why it's so important to keep that liquidity up, and just maybe explain a little bit about that?
Sure. So, and I really look at DeFi as having multiple facets. One of those facets is going to be those tokens that are highly volatile and they can be fun and potentially really profitable to trade if you're a very good trader. In that case, then high liquidity is not necessarily the most important thing. You want to trade on volatility. Now, this token or this project is not really in that category. This project, just like Alpha Shares, is something that we're looking at as a really long-term project and something that we want to be in for the long haul. And for that to actually work, you need to have as much liquidity as possible, because otherwise you are not going to be able to take consistent profits over time. And large trades, whether they're buys or sells, are going to cause a huge amount of volatility that's not necessarily beneficial to a project like this.
Okay.
And one thing that I want to touch on too, when it comes to liquidity, and it kind of got brought up because we had an AMA last night and somebody actually asked about the sustainability of the Momentum project. And I think that it's something that a lot of people ask, especially when it comes to DeFi in general and any product or project rather that's like this. What I really like to bring up, and it's something that can be seen as abrasive in this space, especially since there are a lot of other projects that do this, but with the bear market here, I think it's really come out that if a project is only sustained and all of the profits paid out to people are only sustained and taken from other people investing in the project. Well, then it is truly a Ponzi. And everything starts out as a Ponzi. And I mean, James, you and I even had this discussion a long time ago privately about, hey, I mean, even macroeconomics, when you look at it from micro to macro, everything can be seen as a Ponzi because they all feed into itself. These systems feed into themselves. However, how do you make something that's quote unquote sustainable? And so we did it with Alpha Nodes, where we launched Alpha Nodes as originally a fun DeFi project where people got to invest into a reflection token. Where, yes, as Alpha Nodes, when you were earning rewards as reflections, those reflections were coming from taxes taken from people buying and selling. So directly coming from other investors, right? We're totally transparent with that. That's how it works. However, we are also growing a treasury. And the point of that is to be able to deploy that treasury into investments that produce outside income that can actually go back into the system, something that's external from the original system and feed as those rewards. And that's something that becomes sustainable, where you're not dependent on your rewards being solely the liquidity that's in the liquidity pool, or that plus the treasury, or so on and so forth. And so really the goal here is, how do you create a unique and trusted fun DeFi protocol that allows people to earn on the way up? It's a longer term hold, but it also allows us to grow a treasury, which is going to be deployed into real income producing, valuable investments, things that are also unique in nature because of the abilities that we have of getting 3 cents a kilowatt hour in Paraguay. You can't find that anywhere else. You look at the US and you're looking at industrial areas at high megawatt capacities, you're looking at 8 to 12 cents a kilowatt hour. So we have a fraction of that fixed expense. And so that's where the true utility and value here is as we grow this treasury, we deploy it into something like that. That produces external revenue, which flows back into the system. And that's what makes it sustainable. No project, and we're going to be the first, we won't be the last, but we will always say it, no project will sustain forever by just relying on new people to hear about the project, get eyes on it, that type of thing. So really want to make that apparent, because I want everyone to know here that this really is a way for you to get involved in something that is a unique opportunity. And the profits that you're going to be earning aren't going to be coming just from, oh, I bought my mass token. Oh, cool. Look, my balance went up. No, it's going to be, oh, wow, they're mining a crap ton of Bitcoin and Cadena, and they're allocating these funds correctly. They're selling at current moments. They're making sure that we as a community earn these profits and get to partake in mining at a better opportunity than anywhere else. So I digress, but that's one big thing that a lot of people ask all the time: how is this sustainable? How is this sustainable? And that's how you have to connect anything like this to an outside revenue source. So either a platform or a service or a product.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I totally agree with that. That especially in the bear market, relying on new people coming in is just not something that you can rely on right now. People are hesitant, people are out of funds, and so just not something. So can you kind of walk us through a customer journey or an investor journey? So you buy mass token, right? Or you bond it. Do you want to maybe talk about how you could think about those two things and why you would do one instead of the other?
Go ahead, John. You say it so much better than I do.
All right. So there's two different ways to enter the protocol. The first being a simple chart buy, and that of course is going to incur the buy tax on it. But it does give you the tokens in your wallet right away, and that makes it so that you will be able to start earning the trading dividends immediately. The second way is through bonding, and we offer two different bonds available. One is a shorter term bond, the 7-day bond, and what that gives you is the ability to avoid the buy tax. The 14-day bond gives you an extra 25% of the tokens that you would have purchased normally. So you get to avoid both the buy and sell tax, as well as getting a small percentage of extra tokens on top of that. The downside of that, of course, is that you're not going to be earning dividends on the tokens that are being vested over time. Now, that is the current state of the project. As we get moving forward to where we will be returning dividends from the treasury investments, there's going to be an added layer on top of this that we're calling a singularity. And what that is going to be essentially a token lockup for a 30-day period of time. When you add your tokens to the singularity, or you bond it directly into it, you immediately are able to start earning dividends on both the trading volume, as well as this is the only way that you will be able to participate in the treasury investments. So again, just to reiterate, in order to be able to participate and get the dividends from the treasury investments, that will have to be locked up for 30 days. It's fairly similar to the way that DAG works, where you will go and you will lock your 250,000 tokens up for a 30-day period, and at the end of which you will receive the rewards from that node staking. Now, one of the reasons for this, for going with the token lockup, is that we do want to make it so that if you wish to bond into the system, then you will be able to receive all rewards during that period of time.
Okay. Okay, awesome. No, this is great. So and this is really good. This is super helpful here. So you can just buy off the market normally, just on Pancake
Mhm.
Swap or whatever. But you're going to have both the 15% buy tax, and is it a 15% sell tax also?
It's an 18% sell tax.
18% sell tax. Okay, so you can do the 7-day bond, and then you get in for free. You don't have to do the buy tax. So like it says here, you'll get a 7-day automatic 15% ROI because you don't have the buy tax. Or you can do the 14-day where it avoids the buy and the sell tax. So you get a 40% 14-day ROI. So that's cool. I like that feature, and all that goes. It helps liquidity. It helps puts money into the treasury. Someone had a question on here. I think I banned them, so I actually lost their comment. But they were saying, "This is Time Wonderland exactly." Do you want to? Because I think people hear bonds and they immediately think, "Oh, this is exactly like Olympus and Time Wonderland."
Mhm.
Do you want to maybe just highlight some of the differences between even some of the rebase tokens and the way that was done and what you guys are doing?
Yeah. So, and I get that. One of the things that I was actually looking at is where those projects really went wrong. And first and foremost, those treasuries were not, to my knowledge, used to actually invest in anything that gave substantial returns to anybody who bought into the project. Secondly, is that those projects, all of the Olympus type projects and rebase projects in general, suffered from runaway inflation because there's no check on it. The momentum mechanism is elastic, but it's only changing the supply within the liquidity pair and the bonds. So as you bond, there are more tokens being created, and as that's happening both on the vesting contract as well as into the LP. Now the big difference here, and this is where the stabilizer comes into play, is that the stabilizer is entirely demand driven. If you buy off the chart, you're going to immediately see a green candle. And then shortly after that, you'll see a red candle because the system is rebalancing the LP. That's creating more mass tokens to get the price down to where it should have been, or where it is configured to be at a given time. If you are to sell mass tokens into the LP, the mass tokens are actually taken out of circulation. They're burned. And that's only done through the LP rebalancing. So there's no runaway inflation happening here. And we're also using the treasury the way that it's actually supposed to be used. And that is to get into opportunities that would not be available to individual investors.
Okay, I like that. Okay, well, we got a ton of audience questions. So I do have some more questions I want to ask, but let's bring in some audience questions. Let's see. Okay, there's so many good ones. What would you say are the risks? And then what kind of dividends do you tell people to kind of expect, or how do you think through that or calculate that?
So I'll cover each of these individually. So the risk is going to be the same with, I would say, just about any other project, any other token, any other asset. If the sentiment does turn 100% negative, then there's nothing really stopping it. There is a risk of it breaking. Now, anybody who tells you otherwise on their project is not really telling the truth. There's always that risk. And it's our job as the protocol owners to do everything that we can to maintain our end of the bargain, which is to continue building and helping sentiment to go up and earn everybody money here. Always going after the wins for everybody. Now, the second part of this question, the percentage of dividends, that's not something that we can promise at all. There is no promise. It's all based on volume for the trading side. And on the treasury investment side, there's so many factors that we're not going to be able to give you a hard answer on that. But I can say is that the better it does, the more we all earn. And if there are months where there is zero earnings, there won't be any extra distributions. That's just the hard truth of the matter. We're not going to be inflating tokens. And the thing is that you're not earning your dividends in mass tokens. You're earning it in actually BUSD, or when we're on AVAX, it's going to be USDC. So it's real profits coming in. It's not extra tokens being minted and then distributed, which would then be sold into the LP and then cause that greater risk of the LP breaking. So I hope that.
I think that's exactly what I was going to say. Is one big difference is, and I've noticed this in a lot of protocols, if you're promising a certain return, which we've seen in a ton of protocols, we promise 1% a day, or we promise some of them, 100,000% APY like Time had. And if you promise those, then even if the revenue coming in doesn't match that, you still have to pay that out, which results in inflation. So instead, the model that I've seen work a lot better is we're not promising any APR, any APY. It's just like a reflection token. It's just however much volume there is, that's how much we're going to be able to pay out. And you're not going to be able to know. And what that does is it keeps it from the inflation going crazy like we've seen in a lot of other projects. Is that kind of how you understand it as well?
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good way to paraphrase that. Okay. And I think to add on to it, we do have this mechanism in place right now that is having the price appreciate over time. That is able to occur because liquidity is healthy. There's no guarantee that will continue indefinitely. There will be a point in time where it will even out and go on a horizontal line rather than a diagonal.
Okay, gotcha. Do you want to? We got so many good questions. Keep the questions coming, guys. We won't be able to get to all of these, but just keep them coming, and we'll get to as many as we can. Can you explain what does selling into the LP mean? Is there a specific preferred way to sell, and also to sell in order to compound?
Sure. So selling into the LP means just doing a straight sell on Pancake Swap or through Box Swap. LP is liquidity pool, and that's what we're talking about when we're talking about rebalancing to ensure that the price is configured to be where it is right now. That's a ratio of the two tokens that are being traded against. In this case, it's the mass token and the BUSD token.
Okay, awesome.
Now for compounding, this is momentum right now is still in its infancy. This is just the beginning. I am going to be releasing optimizers, which will take care of the compounding for you automatically. And that's also going to be related to what's going to be released with the singularities. Right now, in order to compound, you have two different options. One is to compound your dividends, which will create a 24-hour bond, or you'd have to go manually and sell the tokens that you have currently and then go and create a brand new bond, whether it's a 7 or a 14-day.
Okay. Nope. I think that makes sense. What happens? Do you want to kind of what happens to the initial funds during the bonds? Do you again want to? You kind of mentioned that, but do you want to talk again about what you're doing with that treasury? You talked a little bit about it, but do you want to go through that again?
Sure. So now these numbers are not set in stone. They can be adjusted. Currently, what we're doing is we're taking 50% of the BUSD that comes in, and that is being added to liquidity with the exact same amount of mass. So if you put $100 BUSD in, that's creating $100 of liquidity, because that means that it's being matched on the LP. Now, the other 50% is going to the treasury, which is then going to be used for the investments later on.
Okay. Yep. Nope. That sounds good. And then how did the launch go? How would you say the project's been going so far? I think you guys launched on the 23rd or something of October. How have things been going since then?
Well, it's been going great. It was a slow stealth launch, and we were very happy with the way that it went. We got Rug Doc involved very early on. She was excited to see that it was Tyler and I doing the project, and shortly after we went through the KYC with her, there were several buys on the chart from the Rug Doc wallet. So that was a nice vote of confidence there, and excited to continue that relationship with Rug Doc and Paladin. And we've just been going slow and steady along. And once we felt the time was right, we introduced this to the Alpha Shares community, and we let everybody know that, hey, this is alpha and mass together, and we're going to continue building. And now Momentum is the DeFi arm of the Alpha Shares brand, and Alpha Shares will continue to be NFT focused. So anything new on the DeFi side, whether it's DEX or an auto compounder or anything else, that's all going to be under Momentum.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So thank you for answering that. I was going to ask about Alpha Share. I'm a big Alpha Shares investor. So, just would like to hear what plans are there as well.
Well, one thing to actually touch on that, just because you did already mention it, we did, and this is a good milestone for us, and we're going to be making the next one, I believe today. A little bit running around with family and everything in town, but we'll make sure that it happens. But a week ago today, we actually did our first disbursement from Momentum to Alpha Shares, and so both of these brands are synergistic with each other, being under the same umbrella, all going for the same benefit of really being a mutual fund, if you will, of investing into things that go back to investors, go back to holders. And what we did was our treasury from the time of launch until last week had grown by $60,000. And so we were able to take 15% of our net profit after expenses and after holdback for investments and whatnot, and actually deposit $3,000 over to Alpha Pack holders. So anyone that holds an Alpha Pack NFT immediately saw an increase in their dynamic rewards. And those were rewards that, again, just like the rewards that are paid out from marketplace activity, they came from something else, not within the Alpha ecosystem, not from people buying the Alpha token. This did come from Momentum activities, but because these are synergistic, the same thing is going to happen on a weekly basis moving forward. So as Momentum does better, people part of Alpha Shares will also get to succeed, and they both bounce off one another, and we get to leverage each other's positions. But that's a big exciting thing, and look out for the new one that comes out later today.
Awesome. No, that's incredible. No, I love that. It's great being an investor in both. I'm actually not in Momentum yet, but I think I will put in. I mean, there seems like the bonds, especially this early in the project, are like a no-brainer. And actually, someone just asked that. Are people too late? Is there a point where it becomes too late? That's what we're used to seeing in these crypto projects. Is if you get in early, you're great. If you get in late, you don't do as well. What would you say to that?
So I don't think so. And this is actually kind of related to a discussion that I was having with a friend of mine, and about DeFi in general, is that oftentimes people are looking for very quick multiples in crypto, and I understand that's where, again, the different facets of DeFi. But that's really not the case with Momentum. It's a long-term hold, and even though the price has appreciated by 50% so far, I think we're just getting started. And the interesting thing, or one of the really interesting things that we're going to be doing, is Momentum will be launched on multiple chains. I'm working this week to gear up for the Avalanche launch of Momentum. And because we have the Momentum mechanism where I can configure the price and configure the price appreciation, and that is to help answer another question that I saw come in on YouTube there. The price is configured through a contract, and then it's managed automatically through both the contract as well as a Open Zeppelin relayer, so it's all automated. Because I have that automation, we're going to be able to launch the Momentum token on Avalanche at the exact same price that it is currently on BSC, and I'll be able to keep them in sync. So there is no being early or late on this project as far as I'm concerned. It'll always be available, and you can rest assured that we're going to be just continuously building on it. And there's some cool things that are being added on specifically for the Avalanche side, where it's going to have a more direct synergy with Alpha shares. But yeah, and Avalanche is just going to be the start. Shortly after that, we'll probably go to Polygon and Arbitrum and Ethereum as well.
Awesome. Can't wait to see that. Any plans of possibly partnering with truth seekers? And we had a few questions from people about if you have audits or KYC, or what your thoughts are on all the security side of things.
So we are preferred partners with Rugdoc and Paladin. I cannot state enough just how proud I am of that relationship that I was able to foster with them. I worked hand in hand with Paladin on building Alpha shares, and I love that company. I think that they are really the best in the business. And I can't say yet if we're going to get an audit outside of Paladin and go with another company in addition to them, but we will be doing an audit with Paladin at some point in the future. And of course, we're already KYC'd across the board too.
Okay, awesome. Yes, and to me as well. I've seen your guys' face. You kind of have doxed to me before as well. So, and we've interacted a lot about a lot of different things. So
Yeah, I'm sure that we've shared our LinkedIn's with you too, and you'll find somewhere in the chats.
yeah, I'm sure if I looked back, I could find them. Also, too, by the way, guys, if you have kind of specific questions about a situation that you're dealing with, I'm going to leave a link to the Discord, but just hop into the Discord and ask there. We probably won't do that here on the AMA. But yeah, hop in Discord. I'm sure they'd love to answer any questions that you might have. So again, just want to clarify, just make sure everybody kind of understands the dynamics at play here. Is there a stable floor in the chart? People are used to these liquidity manager services where it stays in this range. How is what you guys are doing? How does it compare to that?
So right now, we're still on the uptrend journey of Momentum, and that will remain the case as long as the liquidity is healthy and continues to increase at a rate proportional to the market cap and so on. Again, at some point, the floor is going to be horizontal, and we will continue on that trajectory for as long as possible as well.
Okay, and is that going to kind of be a manual decision at some point, or is that something programmed into the contract?
That is a manual configuration. I'm constantly watching this thing, and so I have really good automation in place that keeps it going. But of course, I can make adjustments as needed.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and just so people kind of understand, so the way that I think through it is there's two ways that DeFi projects kind of function. Some are the team is very involved and they're actively kind of doing things in the project. Some are just, let's rely on the contract to do everything. And there's pros and cons to both of them for sure. But we've seen in projects that are relying on the contract specifically that when the price, well, I'll just use Drip as an example because I'm in them big, but like the price is down, but they can't make any changes to anything because it's all part of the contract. So There's pros and cons to both sides of things. All right. And so Richard says the biggest fear is the floor draining the liquidity if it is stable, like, say, a hoard. So, I mean, that is something that could eventually happen. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
More
one
questions.
thing
Go
I
ahead.
do want to touch on that though, because something like Horde, I'm not, and I don't want to speak on something that I'm not fully sure of, but I don't think that they were going to be doing something similar that we were, which was taking investments or taking treasury rather money and investing it into things that go back into the system. So I think that with their system, a lot of the sell pressure was still completely being eaten up by positive buy pressure if it was there. If it wasn't there, and in an event like the current market and what's been happening there, I think then yes, you're going to get drained in that liquidity. But the goal here, like I mentioned before, is to be able to invest into things that produce quite a bit of profit that gets shared back into the ecosystem, which will result in that liquidity continually being built regardless of people selling. Because if you have a closed system like most other DeFi projects, yes, if everyone tries to take their money out, it goes to zero. However, if you have a system that's open and money gets fed into it, and at some point, if you have an outside investment feeding just as much money into it as people that have bought, technically everyone could sell and there would still be a ton of liquidity to hold the price because the money didn't come from all those investors. It came from the outside investment. So that's the biggest thing I think here. And it also aims at, is it early? Are we late? Is it a long-term investment? What's going to happen to the floor? Obviously, everything we do about the price, what John's doing is definitely quite a bit of management to make sure that, sure, we can make assumptions, we can do calculations, mathematical assumptions on what's the price going to do at certain points. We want to make sure that increases for the benefit, that initial immediate appreciation of, oh, I bought my tokens, a week later it's up 15, 20%. You get that appreciation. You're not just stable. However, the real true thing here is deploying those investments.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, another thing like we talked about before is you're not guaranteeing 1% a day. Which that if you were guaranteeing on this mass token, we're going to pay out 1% a day to every single holder. You'd run into problems pretty quickly here, I imagine. So
absolutely, yep.
Absolutely. Where do you see, and I know project owners always hate, and I hate this question too, for myself, but I would like to just hear your thoughts on it. But what do you kind of imagine? And again, not financial advice. We're not saying that you're held to this, but where do you see 3 to 6 months? What do you kind of see happening to the price of the token and to the protocol as a whole?
So price of the token to me is secondary, and really not even secondary. I look at everything in terms of milestones. First being liquidity, and along with that is also going to be our firepower to be able to make these very impactful investments. The mining operation in particular. In 3 to 6 months, we should have at least a 1.5 megawatt mining farm fully operational, with me there in person overseeing it and making sure that everything continues to run properly. And going back to one of the things that was asked previously, I will be doxing once I am living in Paraguay. Something that I'm actually really excited about doing is maybe doing like a video blog every day of the management of the mining farm, in addition to the protocol and everything, and just being along that journey with everybody. So again, going back to this, I don't like to talk about price. Price is secondary. I'm more concerned with our milestones and revenue and investments that we're going to be able to be hitting, and additions to the protocol. Whether it's the addition of the DEX or the auto compounder, and all of that is all going to be synergistic with everything that we're doing here. And it's really just this large ecosystem that we're building. We have a really big vision for everything that we want to do with both alpha shares and momentum.
Well, I pushed a button, changed my view in a bad way. No, that's good. That's awesome. And by the way, audience, do you have any last minute questions that you kind of want to? I have a few more that I want to get to, and then I want to show people how they can get in if they're wanting to. But yeah, if you have any last minute questions, now is the time to ask those. Do you know, talking about the point of work and proof of stake stuff, do you know when the launch for those are, the kind of the timeline on those?
Yeah, I mean, we have hard deadlines for the establishment here. The first tranche is going to be deployed in the beginning of January. We're actually, and there's going to be a couple steps along the way to get there, and that's going to be um, securing living expenses, and also getting the land figured out for the location of the mining farm. And that's just to get started. So shortly after that, we're going to be ordering the container, and as time goes on and the funds are there, we're going to be filling that container up with miners, and that, of course, is going to be a factor of availability and the funds too. So again, I can't give you an exact timeline other than I know exactly when I'm moving there.
Okay, gotcha. And then somebody asked, if John goes to Paraguay and manages the farm, who will be coding for Alpha Shares?
I'm going to be doing both. I think you guys know me well enough to know that I don't stop.
Yeah.
And luckily, it's not a locale based thing to be able to be a wizard on the coding. So
Right.
he could do it from anywhere. He could be at space and do it.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, and I wanted to just address one thing, and then I want to show people how to get in, and then if you guys have anything else you want to talk about. But you guys are not, people, we're kind of talking in the comments about the profitability of mining Bitcoin right now. But Kadena is actually like there's a ton of potential in mining Kadena right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've been burned by the KD5 and the KD6, but like this KA3 miner is making $32 a day, and that's with high electricity costs. And that's with the price of Kadena at like 75 cents right now, where the all-time high is $28. So, I mean, this could, when we get back to a bull market, this Kadena could be, that could be making $2,000 a day or something crazy like that. Do you want to just talk about what you think about mining right now, and if now's a good time to mine?
Well, mining is really, it's going to be a factor of what your electricity cost is first, and mining difficulty along with that. And then the other factor that you have to deal with is the availability of the hardware. I would love to be able to get at least a good portion of this container filled up with these KA3s. That would be awesome. And we're going to do whatever we can to get as many of these as possible. But you also still have to hedge on this. And I think it's a good idea to have a spread. And so having a good portion of Bitcoin, good portion of KA3, Kadena, that would be awesome. And if anybody has a connection on this particular hardware, let us know. We'd probably like to talk to you, because every time that I've checked, they've been sold out, and we're going to be on top of that though.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I have a bunch of miner connections, so I'd be happy we can see, hey, does anybody have this available? And we can maybe see if we can get something worked out. But yeah, no, thanks for talking about that.
That'd be great.
So if people want to get in, again, just correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I'm understanding it. The two ways you can get in is you can just buy off the market here from PancakeSwap. You're going to need to set your slippage probably at like 16, maybe, to get that 15% tax in there. And then you can just buy normally like that with the 15% tax. The other option is to do these bonds, where you can do a 7-day bond where you're putting in BUSD. You just don't get your tokens until 7 days later, and you don't have to pay the 15% buy tax. Or you can do the 14-day bond where you don't have the buy tax, and when you get the tokens, you won't have the sell tax either. So those both would be great options for it.
Just to clarify a couple things, the vesting too. So it is 7 or 14 days, but that doesn't mean that you don't get any until 7 days or until 14 days. It actually vests over time. And so you can actually claim your balance that is pending at that moment. And so, oftentimes people will go in at a certain period of time every day, multiple times a day, and claim, because like John said earlier, you don't earn those reflections unless it's mass that you hold in your wallet, which you only actually hold it once you claim that vested balance. One other thing too about that percentage, just to fully understand the 14-day bond a little bit better, is yes, any bond avoids that buy tax. So that actually completely avoids the buy tax. The sell will always have a tax. But what the 14-day bond does is it gives you 25% more tokens. So let's say if you just did a 7-day bond and you were to get 100 tokens, well, with this, you would get 125, and you'd also have that 18% sell tax. But obviously, because you're getting an extra 25% of tokens, you're going to avoid that sell tax and even earn a few percentage points on top. So that's how that really works.
Okay, gotcha. So if you did the 14-day bond but didn't want to sell, that was still the right option. You get that 40% over 14 days.
Correct. Yeah. And at the end of that 14 days, you would have 25% more tokens than any other option, mainly 25% more than, I guess, the 7-day bond, because you're also avoiding that tax, right? And then, yes, if you wanted to compound back in and sell, you could. But like John was saying, we've got something cool where, John, you already mentioned you gave some alpha on the singularities there. I'm going to drop a little bit more. We touched on it in the medium, but what we're going to be calling, I think, this extra compound feature, this auto compounder, if you will be the mass accelerator. So a lot of cool, fun names that we got going on here. I think that I love this branding behind Momentum and the mass token. I think everyone's going to love what's coming up here soon.
Okay, very cool. Well, hey, I think that's all the questions I have. Does anybody else in the audience have any last minute questions? Or do you guys, John and Tyler, do you feel like there's anything that we didn't touch on that you really wanted to?
I personally think, I've been trying to hop in here if anything I felt wasn't touched on, but I think we really did touch on everything. I love all the questions from the audience. Really, if there's anything that I want to leave it on is it's definitely the week of being thankful, the week of giving thanks, with Thanksgiving here in 2 days. And so I just want to say I'm really thankful for you, James, for having us up on here. And then for everyone here that's, in the audience, whether you're an investor or not, asking those questions, hanging out with us, spending your time to hear more about the Momentum Project. We're really, really thankful for everyone in this community. We wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. Yes, what this whole reason for everything with Alpha Shares and Momentum is to be able to provide unique opportunities to those of you that it wouldn't be available to individuals. That also means, though, that those opportunities wouldn't be available to us if we didn't start this, if we weren't the founders of this project, if we didn't have this community behind us. So really want to say thank you, guys. And thank you, John.
Yeah. And thank you. I want to thank the audience also again. I couldn't do AMAs unless people showed up, and I'm amazed that people show up, day after day, and I appreciate it so much. And then, Tyler and John, you guys you're one of my favorite teams in the space. You keep building, even through, kind of tough market conditions. And I don't hear you complaining about the market conditions, but just keep building and keep building new things. So thankful for that. So thank you guys for coming on and just what you do for the space.
Thank you, James. This is great. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. And if anybody else has more questions, I know we didn't get to every single one, but hop into the Discord or the Telegram, and they will definitely be happy to answer any of your questions. I'm going to figure out how much BUSD. This is a project. I'll just let you guys know, this is a project I am going to be buying into. It's not something I'm going to put $1 million into, but I'll be putting in some BUSD. And honestly, the hardest part, you guys can probably relate to this, is finding BUSD sitting around. None of my projects are making money, so it's hard to find liquidity around. So appreciate that very much.
Of course, soon it'll change too, being on Avalanche. So hey, we'll be able to be there too and participate.
Yes, that will be helpful for sure. So, well, hey, thanks everybody. Hope everybody if I don't talk to you, I'm sure I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, everybody. But hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving week and have a great rest of your Tuesday. Thanks, guys.
Likewise.